What's up, folks? Coming to you live from Vegas. This video is just outlining a few keys, 3 keys to victory for each guy. Saul CANELO Alvarez, Daniel Miracle Man Jacobs for tomorrow night's big fight. So let's start with the champion. Caught a few of you sleeping out there. They are both champions. This is a unification. So we'll begin with Saul Alvarez. 51 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws, 35 knockouts. He's the WBA Super and WBC World Middleweight Champion. He dropped the IBO belt because either he didn't want to pay the sanctioning fees or he just didn't take it seriously, or both. Can't tell you. So let's look at 3 keys for Saul CANELO Alvarez. 1 key for Saul Alvarez in this fight is to cut off the ring. He wants to get to Jacobs, and when he does, he has to not only cut off the ring, excuse me, he wants to not only cut off the ring, but get inside and then get off. And Saul, you are at a reach disadvantage and an athletic disadvantage here. So you'll have the challenge of getting in and doing work once you are in there. Close the gap and get inside where you will have the advantage. You have a good jab, and if you double it and triple it up at times, as well as throw your jab to the head and the chest area, maybe, just maybe, you'll find success. Get Danny to reach. Get him to commit so you can have counter shot opportunities. If you can counter Jacobs, you'll negate Daniel's speed. All right, so that, my friends, is 1 key to Saul Alvarez or Canelo to have success against Daniel Jacobs. Excuse me. Excuse my voice. So let's look at the 2nd key for Canelo Alvarez. We'll go 3 for him and then 3 for Jacobs instead of jumping back and forth. So the 2nd thing Saul must do is stay busy. He likes to take rounds off because he kind of runs out of steam a bit, and he fades and he looks to take breaks. And when he goes through these stretches where he's just moving and trying to get out of the way, he doesn't throw punches. For some reason, during the 2nd Golovkin fight, it didn't happen. Maybe it was something he ate. But if you look at the pre-clenbuterol fights, meaning the ones where he may have been taking clen but just didn't get caught, there are moments where he buys himself time, and guys have let him off the hook. In this fight, if Alvarez hasn't gotten his 2nd wind and Jacobs has, it could be a key. Alvarez is on a streak where he's really been aggressive. He's been the aggressor in the 2nd fight with Golovkin. He spotted Amir Khan a few rounds, and then he started to attack. He was aggressive against Junior. most of the fight. And he attacked Fielding from the start and got him out of there early. Before that, it was Liam Smith and James Kirkland. And with that aggression, had some of those fights gone further, I think Alvarez would have gassed at some point, which has been his nature outside of that second Golovkin fight. So he would have gassed. A clean Alvarez would have gassed. And he would have tried to take rounds off, as he's done in the past. I think Jacobs knows this. So, Canelo, you need to not be too aggressive early unless you feel you can score the knockout. If not, you need to be wise with your attack. And speaking of attack, the third thing Alvarez needs to do is invest in body work. Hit Jacobs in the breadbasket as early and as often as possible. Jacobs will be on his toes, and Alvarez needs to get inside to work the body and to wear the big man down. You're a good body puncher, and you need to be effective with it in this fight. So punch to the body when you have opportunities, including the jab down low. And I know I'm saying you to these guys like they're listening, but you never know. You're surprised. A few friends of mine got invited to what they're calling podcast row, or radio row, where they've been inside of the media room at the MGM Grand for the past 2 days, talking for like 3, 4, 5 hours, maybe even more, because somebody who they never thought listened to their show listened to it, and they got an invite. So you never know who's listening. And I can tell you for a fact, maybe not so much this channel, but boxers, when they do searches to find their names and titles on YouTube, and they listen. So if you put someone's name in the title of your channel and they do a search and find it, they're going to listen. And I know Terrence Crawford does it. He won't comment a lot of times below the video, but then someone will interview him and he'll bring something up, and he still won't mention the channel, but you'll know that he's specific to something someone said on one of these YouTube channels. So if you're out there listening, those are your keys. All right, let's look at the other champion, Daniel Jacobs. 35 wins, 2 losses, 29 knockouts. He's your IBF World Middleweight Champion. The first key for Danny is to box, meaning box with movement. Daniel, you have height, reach, and athletic advantages. You need to use them. Keep your jab on Alvarez. Double and triple it and move. Every once in a while, you want to hold your ground and let a big shot go to keep Alvarez thinking. But do not get into a trade with him. That's what he wants. Just keep the fight at a distance. Your distance. I hear a lot of people talking about Danny Jacobs needs to stay away from Canelo. Well, I say Canelo needs to stay away from Jacobs. Danny has 35 wins and 29 are by knockout. His power is legitimate, although his biggest knockout was a standing stoppage against the kind of chinny Pete Quillen. Nevertheless, if you watched the way Golovkin fought him a bit, he was well aware of that power and he felt the power. So, another part of Jacobs's boxing is his speed. Fast hands and power and movement is his game. Saul Alvarez cannot cut the ring off like Gennady Golovkin can. No way, can't do it. A lot of people think Canelo Alvarez is faster. I think Jacobs might be faster, whereas Canelo may be quicker, or vice versa, whatever. But the point is, Jacobs's hand speed is like night and day compared to Triple G. Jacobs is also a more cautious boxer these days, as in the past he's thrown caution to the wind and gotten wild. And you can check the Quillen fight out and the first Sergio Mora fight to understand. Okay? Second key, Daniel, you want to keep Canelo at the end of your punches. Stay active. Don't move just to move and waste energy. You are the boss in the ring. Show Canelo you mean business. When you do move, or when you move, the key is not to square up. If Alvarez is seeing your shots coming, then do to him what he's going to do to you. Invest in the body. So if you're using your speed and your reach and so on and so forth, and you're throwing shots at Alvarez's head and he's slipping most of them, then fight fire with fire. He's going to go to your body. You can't hit his head, so start investing in the body, which includes the arms, the chest, I mean, anything you can hit. Try to take the gas out of Canelo, as he's going to try to do to you. Your hand speed allows you opportunities. But as the fight progresses, Alvarez will see chances to strike back. So, what do? You throw lead right hands. You use your second jab of your double jab to blind him while throwing your big right hand. And try it from a different angle or two, a couple different angles. Take your time in there, have fun, but mix it up. Don't be predictable. Because as you're punching, Canelo Alvarez is doing what we call, he's collecting data and saying, okay, he keeps doing this, he keeps doing this. Here's how I'm going to counter. You want to keep him thinking, as we mentioned earlier. The last key for Jacobs is Jacobs needs to understand what works against Alvarez, what troubles him. Hopefully, Daniel, you and your team watched video from fights in between 2013 and 2016. Now, Alvarez was younger, but the styles of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Amir Khan gave him problems. Both guys had boxing, hand speed, and movement, which we mentioned a little earlier in our first key to victory for Jacobs. But specifically in 2013 and 2014, Alvarez fought Austin Trout and Erislandy Lara, respectively. Both guys have good legs and better than average athleticism. Both guys are southpaws. So is Miguel Cotto, for that matter. But Cotto fights orthodox, but he's still a lefty. Well, guess who else fights southpaw often in fights? Daniel Jacobs. And when you see how much trouble Trout and Lara gave Alvarez from the southpaw stance, Jacobs must use it in this fight. Maybe a little bit more than usual also. So, but when he does, if he starts around orthodox and switches to southpaw and around, the key for you, Daniel, is don't square up when you switch, or you might find yourself on the canvas like you were against Golovkin. Once again, it gives Canelo, at worst, something to think about in there. So the third key isn't watching video. It's for Daniel to go lefty at points in this fight. Do this, and you might just find success. The same successes your predecessors found. Southpaws with movement. Many fans believe Trout and Lara won those fights. They were close. And we never did get rematches, did we, guys? There's a reason for that. Okay, so let's look at a few things in this fight. Just a few observations to throw out there before we end this video. Will Las Vegas allow Saul CANELO Alvarez to stack his hand wraps? Stacking should be illegal. It hasn't been for Alvarez in previous fights. How will the judges score this fight? Distance or not, how will they score this fight? It's a big question there. In every fight, there is always one judge, at least, but always one whose scorecard is grossly off the mark in favor of Saul CANELO Alvarez. Okay. Adelaide Byrd in the Golovkin fight, 118-110. CJ Ross in the Mayweather Jr. fight, 114-114. Glenn Trowbridge in the Amir Khan fight, 49-46. And Glenn Feldman for that matter. Dave Moretti in the Miguel Cotto fight, 119-109. Levi Martinez in the Erislandy Lara fight, 117-111. No way. No way. Stanley Crisotodulu in the Austin Trout fight. I'm sorry, Christodoulou. But hey, look. In the Austin Trout fight, 118-109. No way. Those cards were way off. But the angle I look at is the judges to pay attention to are the ones we let off the hook. Don Trella, his 114-114 card in the first Golovkin fight should have been criticized by fans and media alike. But because we live in a world of copycats and followers, nobody complained about that card because the vogue thing to do at that point was to talk about Grandma Adelaide's card. TheFightJournal.com talked about Don Trella's card. Do you think that was a 6-6 fight? In the Trout card, we should have been more critical of Oren Schellenberger's card of 116-111. But shit, we didn't even criticize the 118-109 by Christodoulou. So who's going to care about the 16-11? In the Cotto fight, Burt Clemens turned in a 118-110 scorecard. No complaints. Glenn Feldman should have been pulled up too. But the Khan fight, but the Khan fight ended by vicious knockout. So we kind of overlooked everything else, right? The point I'm making is corruption is done right in front of our faces, and what do? Nothing. And by we, I mean fans, but more importantly, media. Oh no, I'm not going to risk my chance and lose my credentialing privileges. No way. So we keep quiet. Unless it's a situation like Grandma Adelaide Byrd and her card, when everybody jumps into the criticism of judging at that point. Oh, as a media member, I'm safe then because everybody's doing it. So I can kind of jump in and pound my chest and say, yeah, she's wrong. Let's move on. Team Alvarez installed a rehydration clause. Will that affect Jacobs? especially if the fight goes late. Jacobs can only come in at 170 pounds. And while that may seem like an IBF rule, the IBF waives that rule in unification bouts. So this is a Canelo rule. Could be key. You guys heard about the VADA testing in this fight, right? Exactly. There's nothing that's been discussed. I find that odd because everybody jumps on Jarrell Miller, and rightfully so. He deserves it. Then everyone says, wow, Louis Ortiz didn't take the fight. He's crazy. Biggest payday in his life, ×5. And he passes on it. That would have been a great fight. But wait. Ortiz failed multiple drug tests, so why rally behind him? You know, where's the same outcry about him as with Miller? I ask you, why would a two-time busted drug cheat who's probably really over 45 years old turn down $5 million when his biggest payday was $500,000? Like he's at the end of his career. Why would you turn $5 million? You always talk about how your daughter has been sick her entire life and you need to take care of your family. $5 million. And from what I hear, he could have made as much as $8 million. We'll keep it at 5 just to, 5, 8. At that rate, who cares? But why would a two-time busted drug cheat who's probably over 45 years old turn down $5 million when his biggest payday was $500,000? It seems clear to me. He's probably still out there riding his bicycle, if you catch my drift. You catch what I mean, right? Riding his bicycle. If you don't, leave a comment below. The point I'm making is, you come down hard on Miller. You moderately came down on Ortiz when he failed his test. But you give Canelo Alvarez a complete pass after pass after pass. And why? Because he's Canelo, baby. Great fighter. Cash cow. It was tainted meat. I buy the story. Yeah, right. Let's move on. Listen, Daniel Jacobs' style is all wrong for Saul Alvarez. All wrong. But Jacobs has the fight of his life on Saturday night. A smart fight. Very intelligent. And I'm hoping that Andre Rozier, good Lord, I'm hoping he gave him the right plan. I think he has, because he's saying, yeah, we're going to come right at him. We're going to, like, he's talking, and then it's like, no. You're showing your hand, but which means you're probably going to do the opposite. Jacobs fought the fight of his life against Golovkin. However, prior to that, he beat Quillen and Mora. The Quillen fight was a quick one, and Mora wasn't anything at middleweight. He really didn't do much of note. While Alvarez has done nothing but get better, sometimes with the help of illegal activity. But while Alvarez has done nothing but get better, Jacobs hasn't set the world on fire in 3 fights since losing to Golovkin. He beat Louis Arias, but what had Arias done? Then he beat Magic Soyuki, whose biggest win was against Hugo Centeno Jr. And then he beat Sergey Derevyanchenko. I'll give him partial credit for that, even though the guy was his sparring partner and only had 12 fights at the time. I'll give Jacobs a little credit for that. So Alvarez is trending up. It just seems to get better and better with each fight. Jacobs, I won't say he's trending up or down. We'll call it sideways. So this should be a very good fight. I like Jacobs' chances, but I want to see how he looks at the weigh-in and then the day after with the rehydration clause. If I'm him, I'd come in over 170 and pay the penalty, unless it's in the few $1 million range. Then you come in at 170. But if it's not a few $1 million as a penalty or a couple $1 million or what have you, what is Team Canelo going to do at that point? Stop the fight? I mean, if Jacobs comes in at 174 or 175, big deal. The fight goes on. I'd do it, unless the penalty is astronomical. So we'll see what gives tomorrow night. I'm not feeling well, so I may skip the weigh-in and some other activities I was supposed to attend. But we'll see. I'm out of here.